That was not the start we were hoping for this season, was it? Sure, a lot of people see the Community Shield as nothing more than a friendly, but at the end of the day, it is still a trophy. And when there is a trophy on the line, we should always want to bring it home. Even if it is not the most important one, it is still silverware, and we should aim to collect every piece we can get close to. Yes, the game was disappointing, but we tried to take a step back and look at it from a different angle. We wanted to see what actually worked and what clearly did not. Before we dive into that, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. Now, let us jump straight into the video. First, the starting lineup. I think we can all agree this was about as strong as we can put out right now, maybe with the exception of Gravenberch, who was missing. Alisson was in goal. On the left, we had Milos Kerkez. On the right, Jeremy Frimpong. And in the middle, the pairing of Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate. Curtis Jones and Dominik Szoboszlai formed the double pivot, with Flo Wirtz just ahead of them. Mo Salah started on the right, obviously. Cody Gakpo was on the left, and Hugo Ekitike led the line up front. So what was the first thing we noticed when the game kicked off? Well, it was something we actually saw last season from Curtis Jones. Normally, we are used to the pivot players staying on the midfield line while the defenders keep possession, moving the ball side to side, and waiting for the right moment to find Gravenberch, or hit a long diagonal to progress forward. But in the closing stages of last season, we started seeing Curtis Jones do something different. He would drop into the back line, pick the ball up himself, and get directly involved in the very first phase of play. That is exactly what we saw in this game. Curtis Jones kept dropping either between the centre-backs or just beside them to receive the ball. So what did that actually do? By leaving his usual midfield spot, he created the space Wirtz needed to drop deeper and receive the ball between the lines. This movement also allowed our centre-backs to push a little wider, which naturally stretched Palace's defensive shape. And when you stretch a team like that, you open up those valuable passing lanes straight into Wirtz. But Wirtz was not the only reason we were able to move the ball forward. Take this moment for example, when Frimpong suddenly sent a long ball forward. At first glance, it looked like he was just clearing it to relieve pressure. Nothing fancy. But once it reached Ekitike, the whole purpose of that pass completely changed. Watch closely how Ekitike used the outside of his boot to flick the ball, fully aware of where Wirtz was positioned. It was just a small touch, but it laid the ball perfectly in Wirtz's path. From there, Flo released Mo on the right wing, and Mo delivered a beautiful cross to Gakpo. Sadly, Gakpo's header went wide, and we missed what could have been a brilliant goal. Speaking of Ekitike, his goal was pure quality. The link-up play between him and Wirtz was something special. Then came the finish, the way he kept his balance, struck the ball cleanly, and picked his spots so precisely. It was an absolutely top-class strike. Unfortunately, our lead did not last long. We conceded from a mistake that, to be honest, looked worryingly similar to something we had already seen in pre-season. Here is the thing. A double pivot of Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones is more than good enough when we are in possession. They are both technically excellent and can control a game with the ball at their feet. But without the ball, they are not exactly the kind of players you would trust to consistently protect those central spaces. Once we lost possession in this sequence, Szoboszlai seemed caught in two minds. Does he step forward to counter-press, or does he stay back to protect the central passing lane? Wirtz immediately tried to press, but with Palace having a player as good on the ball as Wharton, it was not enough. The pass went straight through our double pivot, and that was all the opening they needed. Meanwhile, Mateta pulled off a brilliant bit of movement to peel away from Van Dijk. In that moment, everything unravelled. Palace broke through, and it ended with them winning a penalty. Our lead was gone, but it did not stay that way for long, and the way it came back was as surprising as it gets. Charging down the right, our new right-back Jeremy Frimpong whipped in what was clearly meant to be a cross, only for the ball to loop over Henderson and drop in off the far post. We would love to say it was intentional, but even Frimpong admitted afterward that it was a total fluke. Sometimes football just gives you those moments. Looking back at the first half, we were the better team. We controlled possession, kept Palace's threat to a minimum, and created enough to be ahead. But the second half told a completely different story. We had the perfect chance to kill the game early on when Ekitike got in behind twice in quick succession. The first time he misdirected a close-range header. The second time he curled a shot wide of the far post. After those misses, the momentum shifted. You could sense Palace growing in confidence, taking control, and putting us under real pressure. As the second half went on, Palace's confidence kept growing. Richards nearly put them ahead with a powerful header from a corner, only for Alisson to react brilliantly and keep it out. A few minutes later, Eze forced our Brazilian into another sharp low save at the near post. By the hour mark, you could feel it, the momentum was shifting, and the Wembley crowd knew it too. So why did this happen? There are two possible explanations. The first is that our players got tired, but that does not really make sense, does it? This was the first official game of the season. Fatigue should not be a factor already, which brings us to the second and more likely explanation. Klopp made the decision to drop our defensive block deeper. At times, it even looked like we were playing a 5-3-2, with Gakpo tracking all the way back as a left wing-back. The problem with this change was that it gave Palace far more time on the ball. They began switching play with ease and looking for runs in behind. And sure enough, that is exactly how Ismaila Sarr got their equalizer. Adam Wharton spotted the gap and threaded a perfect through ball between our defenders. Sarr burst in behind Milos Kerkez and finished with precision, the ball bouncing off the inside of the post and in. It is worth pointing out that both Kerkez and Van Dijk had a rough afternoon defensively. The space between them kept getting exposed, and Palace clearly made it a target. To be fair, it might simply be down to a lack of familiarity. Our backline has two new players, and these partnerships take time to click. Palace were clever with their shape as well. They kept their wingbacks high and wide, stretching us constantly. Daniel Munoz on the right was especially dangerous. He made run after run into the space behind Kerkez, and every time he got forward, it felt like trouble. Elivaries. On the opposite flank, Frimpong gave us plenty going forward with his pace, but defensively he struggled to contain Eze. Much like his predecessor, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he looked vulnerable in one-on-one situations, and Eze took full advantage. Then came the penalty shootout, which was just as chaotic as the match itself. Unfortunately, Liverpool started terribly from the spot, missing the first three penalties. Salah stepped up first and blasted his shot over the bar, making it his second straight shootout miss under pressure. Next, Henderson guessed correctly to his left and pushed away Alexis McAllister's effort. Palace were not flawless either. Alisson denied Eze with a strong save, and VAR confirmed he had stayed on his line. But Mateta and Sarr both kept their cool and converted for the Eagles. With Palace in front, Henderson struck again, this time catching Harvey Elliott's penalty with ease after it was placed far too close to him. That save left Palace one kick away from victory. Borna Souza stepped up for the chance to end it, but smashed his shot off the crossbar, giving Liverpool one last lifeline. Dominik Szoboszlai then buried his penalty with real authority, making it 2-2 after the first 5 rounds and sending it to sudden death. That set the stage for Justin Devenny, the 20-year-old midfielder who had only come on in stoppage time. The moment was massive, but he showed no fear, drilling his penalty into the corner past Alisson to seal a 3-2 shootout win for Palace. The red and blue half of Wembley erupted, and their celebrations told the story of a team that truly believed. So that wraps up what was a rollercoaster of a match. Of course, it hurts to lose any final, no matter how friendly people want to call it. But there were still positives to take, and plenty of lessons that will help us as the season goes on. New players need time to settle, the team needs more minutes together, and that sharpness will come. For now, we dust ourselves off and move on to the real challenge ahead. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. See you in the next one.